Sharing is Caring by Itslivybear. Chapter 3 Letters and First Day. So I did some research. Oh God. As if you don't want to know what's going on as much as I do. Fine, you're right. Continue. Thank you, Nettle huffed. Now, I was doing some research and we have a couple of explanations. One, we could have had stress manifested a secondary quirk characteristic. As stressful as the test was, no way was it stressful enough to force a quirk, and neither of us have the basis for a super strength. Next, there are legends associated with giving and taking quirks, but I feel like we would know based on how it's described. Why did that come up? Well, he sighed, sometimes a soulmate pair would lose a power borrowed and original for no explainable reason. They become quirkless. On the other hand, people have also reported later getting a new power completely different from the old one, but they can use it, both the new owner and the soulmate. Apparently, there's this really freaky dude in the underground, and you would not believe the digging it took to find info on this guy. Bad news, honestly. Hitoshi sighed. Still doesn't seem like what happened, because again, pretty sure we would know if we met that creepy dude. Plus, we both still have our original quirks. What else? Neto gulped. Well, the only documented case for people suddenly being able to use new quirks is when soulmate manifest one. Like, when we were 4. Hitoshi just looked at him and then groaned, throwing his head back. If the universe has assigned us a 4-year-old, I swear to God I will turn myself into the police. Neto winced. Okay, but sometimes quirks manifest late. It could be that. How late is the latest one? Well, the latest was 12, but the average age for late bloomers is 7. Hitoshi scrubbed his eyes with his hands, fighting back a grimace and losing. I'm liking this better and better. There is another option, but I didn't want to consider it. The purple boy raised an eyebrow and looked at the blonde from under his arm. Neto scowled and looked away. Even if we didn't manifest a new quirk by stress, this third person could have. When you say stress, I mean abuse. Someone is stressed to the point where they fear for their life and their body develops a power to overcome that. Both boys were now scowling, having felt the discrimination firsthand. If that's the case, Hitoshi growled, then we have to find them. No way am I letting someone else go through what I had to. Neto wrapped the other boy in a hug. And they won't. We just have to find them. And we won't stop until we do. Izuku was nervous as hell. He had gotten what? 4 points? No way was that enough to get into the hero course. All Might would be so disappointed in him for failing. He didn't even have any backup plans. He hadn't applied to general studies, let alone other schools. What was he gonna do? Die, probably. Okay, no, that came out wrong. He meant that as a self-deprecating joke, not as a suicide joke. He wasn't thinking about that. He couldn't do that to his mom. He also couldn't give Kachan the satisfaction. Plus, All Might had handed him this crazy legacy since quirks were a thing way before soulmates. He had accepted this power, and who knows what would happen if he died with it. Best not to risk it. Today was the day the letter got here. And in fact, it already had, sitting harmless and innocent looking unopened on the kitchen table. He really, really didn't want to open it. But if he didn't, his mom would come home from the hospital soon, and then she would see his failure in real time, and that would hurt. She had always patched him up, being able to sense his injuries with her nurse senses or whatever. And he hated her seeing him hurt because she just looked so sad. She didn't have a soulmate herself, but she had loved his father. Hisashi was long gone now, but she had been happy. It was better to let her think he didn't have soulmates either. He had a feeling she knew anyway. But he didn't want to see her sad, so the best thing to do was to open the letter he had failed, spend the next hour getting over it, and then put on a brave face when Mom came home. But that started with opening the letter. and he really didn't want to do that. Finally, without looking at it, he ripped it open, pulling out the piece of paper within, and it tugged out something else that clattered to the table. Wait, what? A hologram came to life and Izuku flinched. All Might? I am here to give you your scores. Also, to bring an announcement that I will be a teacher in UA next year. Young Midoriya, you made a 97 on our written exam, one of the best scores of your year. Congratulations! As for your practical exam, you only got 5 points. Normally, this would not be enough to get into the hero course. He knew it. He had failed. How cruel that All Might had to record his failure message. But luckily, we wouldn't call ourselves a hero school if we didn't reward heroic behavior. Young Midoriya, you sacrificed precious time to pull your fellow test takers out of danger, including taking on the dangerous zero-pointer to save that girl. Take a look at some of these clips. Izuku was blank-faced as the images of all the people he had pulled out of the way came over the hologram, before ending with a remarka. As such, we have awarded you 50 rescue points, making your total 55 points. That is enough to get into the hero course. Welcome to your Hero Academia. The image of All Might disappeared, revealing the scoreboard. He was in 11th place overall, and it showed the person right below him, but he didn't pay attention to names. It also showed first place, Bakugo Katsuki, with 83 villain points and 0 rescue points. He didn't even realize how much time had passed, staring blankly at where the projection had been, until his mom came home. Izuku? He turned slowly, eyes wide. Mom, I got in. I got into UA's hero course. She broke out in a grin, eyes wet, and he sobbed right along with her. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. I told you so. Hitoshi rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever. If I didn't have your quirk, there's no way I would have passed. Netta snorted. Neither of us would have, but we tied for 13th place. 54 points is great. Who knew about rescue points, right? Yeah, the purple boy smiled softly. We didn't know, but thank God for rescue points. Holy shit. And both 1B2? Netta scoffed. They probably think we blow the dumb 1A kids out of the water. I'm just glad they didn't split us up. True enough. God, I don't know if anyone else can handle your ego. Won't be as lucky I'm there to keep a leash on you. Well, you certainly don't have enough confidence yet, so I have to have enough for us both. But they're lucky to have me, to be the main target for your sarcastic comments. What can I say? I learned from the best. Neto doubled over, snorting. Of course. Ugh, the guy in first got all villain points. I hope he's in 1A, because something tells me he is a pain in the ass to deal with. Ah, yes. Can't have two egotistical bastards in the same class. No, we'll tear each other apart. Hitoshi shifted, pursing his lips. What if he's... Neto shook his head. The quirk manifested on the day of the entrance exam. He'd have to be incredibly lucky and skilled to get 83 villain points. That's at least 28 robots, and no one is that good their first time using their quirk. Hitoshi conceded the point. Still, super strength isn't exactly common. Hopefully our third is a student at UA. Saves us a lot of trouble of having to look for them. Do you think they have tried for the hero course? Even quirkless? If they did, they have some serious balls, Hitoshi muttered. But maybe. We'd both know what it's like to want something so desperately, even if it seems impossible. Neto nodded and slouched back, curling up beside the purple boy. Not impossible, though. We got it. We're in. No sports festivals necessary. Hitoshi wrapped an arm around him. Yeah, he smirked. No sports festival necessary. We made it, me. Izuku was certain that, at this point, nervous was just a state of being. He couldn't remember a time where he hadn't been nervous, actually. He was just a bundle of nerves, and despite literally looking at the 1A door, he felt incredibly out of place. Well, best to get it over with. I insist you take your feet off the desk. Have you no respect for your predecessors? Kachan clicked his tongue in annoyance. Jesus fucking Christ. Get the stick out of your ass. No one gives a shit. What are you, an elitist? The boy, who Izuku recognized as the one to interrupt President Mike, stood up straight and cleared his throat. "I see we got off on the wrong foot," he said tersely. "My name is Ida Tenya." "Oh my gosh, Midoriya! You got in!" He spun around, eyes wide, and came face to face with Uraraka. He smiled and nodded. He was glad she had gotten in too. She giggled. "You don't talk much, huh? That's okay, it's good to see you. Man, this is crazy. We're in UA. If you're here to socialize, you can leave now." They all tensed and Izuku blinked at the yellow caterpillar on the ground. "Oh. What?" The caterpillar sat up and extracted himself from his sleeping bag, revealing that, oh, that was a person in a sleeping bag. And a really tired-looking person at that. "It took you 8 seconds to quiet down, and that is too long. You need to be fast and on time or you will die. Take a gym uniform." He flopped them onto the first person's desk. "And meet me on the training field in 10 minutes. "But sir," Uraraka scrunched up her face, "what about orientation? Also, who are you?" "I'm Aiwazawa Shota, your homeroom teacher. As for orientation, it's illogical and we don't have time for such frivolities. If you dawdle, I will expel you." At the threat of expulsion, people scrambled to grab a gym uniform, ducking out of the room and making a beeline for the locker rooms. Izuku could only follow after, hoping at least one person in the crowd knew where the locker rooms actually were and weren't just wandering and hoping. He really didn't want to be expelled. He changed in record time, getting way too used to changing quickly in middle school to avoid people, and followed out Ida, the blue-haired boy, who seemed to know where he was going. He had almost expected the boy to take longer to change after seeing the exhaust pipes sticking out of the back of his legs, but his gym uniform had shorts, so he was fine. They were the first people out, but more were behind them. Izuku's eyes went wide as he saw Kacchan stalking onto the field, being followed by an animated redhead, and hid behind some of the other people. The more time it took for him to notice Izuku had gotten in, and to his class no less, the better. Aiwazawa cast a critical eye over his class and hummed, "Not bad. We'll work on getting that time down, but it was a good start. Far better than this morning. Now, we're going to do a test." "A test? But it's the first day!" He ignored them. "Bakugo, what was your score on the ball throw in middle school?" Bakugo sneered. 76 meters. Aiwazawa tossed him a ball. "Stand in the circle and throw that using your quirk." Bakugo grinned wickedly, reeling back and screaming, "Die!" as the ball shot into the sky with an explosion. 705.2 meters. "Wow," a girl said enthusiastically. "This looks like so much fun!" Immediately, Izuku could tell that had been the wrong thing to say, because their teacher turned a harsh glare on them. "Fun? You think this is fun? I have 3 years to turn your children into heroes. Saving people's lives is not fun. To make sure you all take this seriously, we will all be running through these regular performance tests, and whoever gets last will be expelled." "But that's not fair!" "Is an earthquake fair? Is a flood? A typhoon? A villain? A hostage situation? No, it's not. But those are the realities that heroes have to deal with. Get used to it. UA has more liberties in its teaching style, meaning I can and will expel you if you don't meet my expectations. Plus Ultra. We'll start with the seated toe touch." Izuku swallowed hard. This was not going to be fun. The ball throw ended up being the last test. Izuku wasn't sure how he was doing, but he knew he was probably near the bottom. The girl who could create anything, Ida, the ice boy with heterochromia, and the girl with vines for hair, plus Kacchan, of course, were dominating the competition, doing well in almost every category. Izuku, on the other hand, hadn't had the guts to use his quirk even once, and had only been painfully average in everything. He was so glad for the beach training because it meant he was strong, and he's always been decently fast, but he had taken up running as part of his training, so he did well in the endurance run as well as the grip test. But now it was the ball throw. Everything else had been done concurrently, multiple people at a time, if not all of them at once. But this time, everyone was being called up one by one. It was good for learning the names of his classmates, Yuzuriha, Todoroki, Shirazaki, etc. But soon enough, he was called up. "Midoriya." "Huh?" Izuku flinched as Kacchan exploded, but not literally yet. What the hell is this quirkless loser doing here? Izuku bit his lip as Uraraka called out, confused. But I totally saw him use a quirk. He's super strong. Oh, was that a soulmate's quirk? No, Izuku choked out. I don't have a soulmate. His eyes met red, and Kachan sneered. Oh, he seemed to be saying, that's what you want to go with? Fine, I can play along. Midoriya, just do the ball throw. Izuku bit his lip and stepped into the circle. Should he use one for all? He had to, right? Otherwise, he wasn't giving it his all and going plus ultra, which was kind of the whole point. Besides, it only broke his arm in one spot and didn't blow it up, so that had to count for something, right? He tensed and prepared to throw, letting the power wash through his arm, and it kinda hurt. He went to throw, and the ball fell to the pitch. He looked up bewildered, but Aiwazawa was just glaring. You were gonna break yourself again, weren't you? Having a powerful quirk is all good and well, but if you can't control it and it takes you out of commission after one shot, you're a liability on the field. Find a way to not be useless. He flinched at that last word. Even with his quirk, he was useless, huh? He steeled himself and gripped the new ball he had been thrown. In the entrance exam, he had felt the power pulling back. Could he do that again? But more? He let One for All flow into his arm again, but this time he stepped on it like it was a hose, and he cut off the flow significantly, letting it be a warm hum. He took a deep breath and reeled his arm back before hurling. His angle hadn't been great, but it soared through the air as he gripped his bruised and battered arm. 456.3 meters. Can you move your arm? Izuku nodded, moving it around and biting back tears. It hurt, but he could use it. Aiwazawa narrowed his eyes, then nodded. Acceptable. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived because Kachan was screaming. What the fuck was that, Deku? Since when did you have a quirk, motherfucker? I'll kill you! Izuku flinched, but before the blonde could get close, Aiwazawa had wrapped him up in a scarf, the fabric moving to his will. He was saying something to Bakugo, but Izuku's mind was buzzing. The cancel quirk, the dark outfit, the scarf. Razorhead, he breathed. This was perfect. If he accidentally spoke and someone got brainwashed, Razorhead could just stop that right away. Sure, then his lie would be revealed, so best avoid that. But that was definitely a solution. Plus, Razorhead was definitely his favorite hero. Second to maybe only All Might, and even then, it was a toss-up. Aiwazawa must have finished whatever he was saying to Bakugo, because he released the boy and Izuku tuned back in. It's too tedious to give you individual scores by test, so here are your places. Like he suspected, Izuriha, Todoroki, and Shirazaki were the top three, much to Kachan's anger, but he wasn't last. He felt bad for Hagakure, who had actually gotten last, but it was how it was. I'm not expelling any of you. Of course, Yuzuriha nodded. It was just a ruse to get us to work harder. Aiwazawa snorted. No, I really would have expelled someone if I thought they didn't have the potential to be heroes. I expelled my entire class last year, which is the only reason I'm teaching another homeroom of hero brats. Don't prove me wrong. They all paled, but he was already walking off the field. Syllabus is on your desk, probably. Go to lunch and don't kill each other or whatever. Izuku jolted, looking at his watch. Was it already lunchtime? Wow. Time goes by fast when you're fearing for the future, but what else is new? Izuku learned that a long time ago, anyway.